Have you ever felt trapped by your circumstances? Maybe you wake up each morning knowing today will look exactly like yesterday. Maybe you work until your hands ache, yet your bank account stays empty. Maybe you watch your children's dreams fade because you cannot give them what they need. This cycle feels endless. You try harder, you sacrifice more, but the walls around you only seem to grow taller. Here's what you need to know. Your current situation does not define your destiny. This is the story of a mother who had nothing but her hands and her will, and how her daily choice, small, unseen, repeated, built a future for 300 girls who would have otherwise been forgotten. It is not your fault that life feels heavy right now. You carry responsibilities others cannot see. Bills pile up, opportunities slip away. People tell you to work harder, but no one shows you how to break the pattern. This feeling is real, and you are not alone in carrying it. Millions wake up each day believing their story is already written, that poverty, struggle, or failure is their permanent address. But what if I told you that transformation often begins not with a grand moment, but with a quiet decision made in darkness? This is the story of Anjali, a 34-year-old widow living in a small village called Bhadrapur in rural India. She worked 12 hours a day washing clothes for wealthy families. Her hands were cracked and raw. Her home was a single room with a leaking roof. Her daughter, Priya, was 8 years old and had never held a proper pencil. Anjali believed her life would end exactly as it had begun, in silence, in service, in sacrifice, without reward. Little did she know, everything was about to change, not because of luck, but because of one choice she made on an ordinary Tuesday morning. Anjali's day began at 3:45 a.m. Before the sun touched the horizon, she was already on her knees scrubbing saris in cold river water. The monsoon season made her joints ache with a deep, familiar pain, but stopping meant no food for Priya, so she scrubbed. By 7 a.m., she walked 3 kilometers to the first household. The mistress of the house never looked her in the eyes. She handed over a basket of dirty clothes and said, "Finish by evening." Payment? 80 rupees, less than $1 American. Anjali's home had no electricity, no running water. When rain fell heavily, mud seeped through cracks in the wall, soaking their only mattress. Some nights Priya cried from hunger. Anjali would hold her close and whisper, "Tomorrow will be better," though she did not believe her own words. She had tried everything. She sold homemade pickles until the local shopkeeper refused her jars. She attempted stitching clothes until her old machine broke beyond repair. Each failure carved deeper lines into her face. Each rejection whispered the same message: "You are not enough. You will never be enough." The deepest pain came on Priya's 9th birthday. The girl asked quietly, "Amma, will I go to school like the other children?" Anjali's throat tightened. She had no answer. The nearest school was 7 kilometers away. Uniforms cost more than her weekly earnings. Books were a luxury for families with concrete houses and motorbikes. That night, watching Priya sleep on the dirt floor, Anjali felt a shame so heavy she could barely breathe. She looked at her calloused hands, the hands that scrubbed other people's clothes, washed other people's dishes, served other people's meals. These hands had built nothing for her own child, nothing. Just like you might feel right now, Anjali believed her sacrifices were disappearing into emptiness, that her suffering had no purpose, that tomorrow would simply be today repeated. But the next morning, walking past the village well, she saw something that would fracture her entire worldview. A torn page from a children's book floating in the muddy water. And on that page, a single sentence in Hindi: "Education is the key that unlocks every door." Anjali fished the soggy page from the water. She could barely read. Her own schooling had ended at age 9 when her father said girls did not need education. But she recognized the word education, and she understood key and door. Something stirred inside her, not hope exactly, but a quiet question. What if this was true? That afternoon, instead of resting, she walked to the village headman's house.
She asked if he had books. He laughed softly and said, "Books are for city people, Anjali, not for us." But he did have one thing, an old newspaper from 3 weeks ago. He gave it to her. She carried it home like sacred treasure. That night, after Priya slept, Anjali lit a small oil lamp. She spent 2 hours sounding out words. Her fingers traced each letter slowly. Some she knew, most she did not, but she persisted. When she finally read a complete sentence, "Rain expected tomorrow," tears fell onto the paper. Not tears of sadness, but of recognition. This skill, this simple ability to understand marks on paper, was power, real power. She realized something profound. Poverty was not just empty pockets, it was empty knowledge. It was not knowing your rights, not understanding contracts, not being able to read medicine labels or bus schedules or school applications. Illiteracy kept people trapped in cycles they could not see, let alone escape. Anjali made a decision that would define her next 5 years of life. She would learn to read, and she would teach Priya. Not tomorrow, not when things got easier, but starting tonight, with one newspaper page, with 1 hour after exhaustion, with 1 word at a time. At first, she did not believe it would work. How could reading change their reality? They still had no money, no connections, no safety net. But a small voice inside her insisted, if you cannot change your circumstances today, change your capacity to face them tomorrow. Her first action was simple. Each morning at 4 a.m., 30 minutes before starting work, she practiced reading by lamplight. She wrote letters in the dirt with a stick. She asked the village teacher 2 questions each week, paying him with extra washed clothes. She taught Priya the alphabet using stones arranged on the floor. The mechanism was simple but profound. Daily repetition rewires the brain. Small actions, consistently performed, build neural pathways that transform identity. Anjali was not just learning letters, she was rebuilding her self-concept from helpless victim to capable learner. And this shift, this internal transformation, would eventually reshape her external reality in ways she could not yet imagine. Day 1 felt impossible. Day 7 felt slightly less impossible. Day 30 she read an entire paragraph without help. Something had changed, not her poverty, not her home, but her belief in what was possible. And belief, when watered daily with action, grows roots deep enough to move mountains.
Day 45 brought the first real test. The monsoon rains flooded the village. Anjali's roof collapsed partially, soaking their few belongings. She spent the entire night bailing water with a broken bucket. Morning came. No sleep, no dry clothes. Her body screamed for rest. But at 4 a.m., she lit the lamp anyway. Her hands trembled with exhaustion. The letters blurred before her eyes. After 20 minutes, she slammed the book shut. "What is the point?" she whispered to the darkness. "Reading will not fix this roof, will not fill this stomach." She almost gave up. But then she looked at Priya sleeping peacefully despite the chaos, and she remembered the torn page from the well. Education is the key that unlocks every door. She reopened the book. She read 1 sentence, then another. The act itself became her anchor. Day 78. A wealthy woman accused Anjali of stealing a silver bangle. The evidence was non-existent, but Anjali's word meant nothing against money. She lost her best-paying job. For 2 weeks, she survived on rice water and wild greens. Hunger made concentration impossible. Some days she wondered if this entire journey was pointless fantasy. But she kept the routine, 45 minutes each morning, no exceptions. Day 112. Priya read her first complete story aloud. Anjali wept silently in the corner. Not from sadness, from witnessing proof that change was possible. This small win fueled her for the next difficult month. Day 150. The village teacher noticed Priya's progress. He mentioned to others that the washerwoman's daughter reads well. Gossip spread. Some women brought their daughters to Anjali asking, "Can you teach them too?" She had no space, no materials, but she said yes. Every evening at 6 p.m., 5 girls gathered on her dirt floor. They used charcoal sticks on broken slate pieces. Anjali taught what she herself had learned just hours before that morning. She was always one step ahead of her students, a fragile position, but it worked. Day 203, monsoon season returned. The village elder publicly shamed Anjali. "A washerwoman teaching?" he scoffed. "This is not your place. Let educated men handle education." Several parents withdrew their daughters. Anjali sat alone that night with just 2 students remaining. Doubt crept in like cold air through cracks. Was she overstepping? Was she failing these children by offering incomplete knowledge? But on day 204, something unexpected happened. One of the remaining girls, Mina, read a medicine label for her sick mother. The correct dosage saved the woman's life. Word spread through the village like fire. By day 210, 12 girls sat on Anjali's floor. By day 240, 23. Year 2 began with a new challenge. Anjali realized teaching required more than reading. These girls needed mathematics to avoid being cheated at markets. They needed writing to sign their own names on documents. She had never studied these subjects properly herself, so she walked 15 kilometers to the nearest town library every Sunday. She copied pages by hand. She practiced problems in the river sand. She taught herself at night so she could teach them by evening. Year 2, month 7, a local shopkeeper offered Anjali a permanent position washing clothes at his home. Steady income, shelter from rain, but the hours conflicted with her evening classes. She declined. Her own daughter questioned this choice. "Amma, we could have a dry roof. Why say no?" Anjali held Priya's face gently. "A dry roof lasts one season. What we are building here lasts generations." Year 3 brought physical cost. Years of cold river water had damaged Anjali's kidneys. Pain shot through her back each morning. The village doctor said she needed rest. She could not afford rest. So she taught sitting down. She scrubbed clothes sitting down. She never missed a day. Some evenings she taught through tears of pain. The girls noticed. They began bringing her warm water, taking turns massaging her hands. The classroom was no longer just a place of learning. It had become a community of care. Year 3, day 312. A government official visited the village for a census. He saw 30 girls gathered around a woman teaching by lamplight. He asked questions. Anjali answered honestly. No credentials, no building, no funding, just daily commitment. The official left without comment. Anjali assumed nothing would come of it, but he submitted a report noting informal education initiative showing remarkable results. Year 4 began with recognition. A local newspaper wrote a small article, "Washerwoman Builds School Without Walls." Donations arrived. 2 used notebooks, 5 pencils, 1 tethered dictionary. These treasures were treated like gold. Anjali created a lending system so every girl could access them. Year 4, month 5, Priya passed the regional scholarship exam, the first girl from Bhadrapur ever to qualify for secondary education in the city. When the acceptance letter arrived, the entire village gathered. Anjali did not celebrate alone. She stood before her 38 students and said, "This is not Priya's victory, it is ours. Her success proves our method works." That night, enrollment doubled. Year 4, month 10, the monsoon destroyed Anjali's home completely. She and Priya slept under a plastic tarp for 3 weeks. Yet the evening classes never stopped. They met under a banyan tree, rain or shine. The girls brought their own slates, their own determination. Anjali realized then that she was no longer carrying this mission alone. The community had adopted it. The dream had become theirs. Year 5, day 47, a non-profit organization contacted Anjali after reading about her in an education journal. They offered funding to build a proper classroom. She accepted, but with one condition: the building must belong to the village. Not to her, not to the organization, to every girl who walked through its doors. Construction began on the first day of the dry season.
Anjali worked alongside the builders during her free hours. She carried bricks, mixed cement. Her hands, already scarred from decades of labor, grew new calluses. But these calluses felt different. They were building something permanent. He didn't know it yet, but day 1885, exactly 5 years after rescuing that torn pagebrum, would be the day the classroom doors opened, and 147 girls would walk through them on the first morning. But the real test was still coming. Building walls was easy compared to changing minds. Some families still pulled daughters from class to work in fields. Some husbands forbade wives from attending adult literacy sessions Anjali had started. The battle had shifted from resources to belief, and belief is the hardest thing to change. Yet Anjali had learned one crucial truth during these 5 years. Persistence is not dramatic, it is boring. It is showing up when no one watches. It is choosing the difficult path when the easy one beckons. It is continuing after failure, after pain, after doubt. And this boring, unglamorous quality, daily persistence, holds more transformative power than any single moment of inspiration.
After exactly 1,825 days, 5 full years, something shifted permanently in Bhadrapur. It was not the new classroom building, though that helped. It was not the donated books, though those mattered. The real breakthrough happened on a Tuesday morning when the village elder's own granddaughter stood before the community gathering and read a poem she had written herself. In clear, confident Hindi, she spoke of dreams beyond marriage, beyond the village boundaries, beyond the limitations her grandmother had accepted. The elder wept, not from shame, but from recognition. He saw his granddaughter not as property to be married off, but as a person with a voice. That afternoon he visited Anjali. He did not speak for a full minute. Then he said simply, "Teach my other granddaughters, all of them." This moment cracked open the dam of resistance. Within 3 months, enrollment jumped from 147 to 210 girls. Mothers who had once hidden their daughters' books now proudly displayed their daughters' writing on mud walls. Fathers began setting aside small amounts of money for school supplies. The transformation was no longer Anjali's project. It had become the village's pride. By month 28 of the initiative, 3 years after the classroom opened, measurable outcomes became undeniable. 27 girls had passed regional exams, qualifying them for city colleges. 15 had secured apprenticeships in tailoring and nursing. 8 had started small businesses selling handmade goods online through a cooperative Anjali helped establish. The most profound change was invisible but felt everywhere. Confidence. These girls walked differently. They spoke to adults with respect but without fear. They negotiated fair prices at markets. They understood their legal rights regarding child marriage and property inheritance. Knowledge had given them agency, the ability to choose their own paths instead of accepting paths chosen for them. Anjali's personal transformation ran parallel to the village's. Her hands still bore scars from river water, but now those same hands held books, not just dirty clothes. She had taught herself enough mathematics to help families budget and save. She had learned enough law to help women secure land titles. She was no longer the washerwoman. She was Anjali Teacher, a title earned not through certificates, but through daily proof of impact. The emotional peak came on a quiet evening 18 months after the classroom opened. Anjali sat grading simple essays by lamplight. Real electricity now powered the building. Priya, home from college for a visit, watched her mother. "Amma," she said softly, "do you remember when you cried because you could not buy me a pencil?" Anjali nodded. "I remember." Priya continued, "Today I taught 3 first-year students how to write research papers because you taught me my alphabet on a dirt floor." In that moment, Anjali understood the ripple effect of one decision.
Her sacrifice had not just changed Priya's life, it had changed the lives of those Priya would teach, and their students, and so on. It was like the fog lifted completely. She saw clearly that poverty is not broken by one grand gesture. It is dismantled brick by brick.
Now, here's what this means for you. You do not need to build a school to transform your life. You do not need 5 years of poverty to prove your strength. You need only one decision, one daily action aligned with the person you intend to become. Your current struggle is not your life sentence. It is your training ground. Every hardship you face right now is building resilience you will need for the success waiting ahead. Anjali's hands were scarred by river water, but those same scars became the foundation for holding books, signing agreements, shaping futures. Your pain has purpose if you give it direction. Starting tomorrow, choose one small action that moves you forward. Just one. Read 15 minutes before checking your phone. Save $5 you would have spent unnecessarily. Practice one skill related to your dream for 20 minutes daily. The action itself matters less than the consistency. Show up when you do not feel like it. Continue when progress feels invisible. Trust the compound effect of daily discipline. Your failures are not the end of your story, they are preparation. Anjali failed to keep a dry roof over her head for years. She failed to find steady work. She failed to protect her daughter from hunger, but none of those failures defined her. Her daily choice to learn anyway, that defined her. Your setbacks are not stop signs, they are data points telling you what does not work so you can adjust and continue. Choose one thing, just one, not 10 resolutions that will fade by February, not a complete life overhaul that exhausts you by week 2. One small, sustainable action performed daily. In 6 months, you will look back and wonder how you ever lived without it. In 12 months, others will ask your secret. Your answer will be simple. I showed up every day, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. Every day you wait is a day lost, but also a day you can reclaim starting now. Your story is not over. The next chapter begins with a single decision made today. Not tomorrow, not Monday, today. Stay for more stories that might change your perspective, because transformation is never about becoming someone new. It is about uncovering who you already are beneath the weight of circumstance. And that person, the capable, resilient, purposeful you, is waiting to be revealed through daily choice. One page, one word, one morning at a time.